if I find a group of healthy humans somewhere, then I can start to understand what a healthy diet really looks like. And so he set out, like in his middle age, kind of like hefty, not in super shape person, set out to take a global world tour, before airplanes were really much of a thing. This was in the 30s and 40s, to all the most remote places of the world to find people who had not been, their diets had not been disturbed by the foods of modern commerce, that were still living the way people had lived for thousands of years. And what he found was that he basically proved his hypothesis correct. When you go to these places, so he went to places like, he actually went to Hawaii, where I was living when I heard about him. He went to Alaska, he went to the Maasai in Africa, he went to somewhere in Europe, Switzerland, and but he went to a total of 11 places. And in all of these places, Peru, yes, in all of these places, he found that the people had straight teeth. And that's what he was looking for. And oh, by the way, so here's where it gets really cool. And, one of the chapters that I'm the most proud of in Deep Nutrition is that having straight teeth isn't just a convenience. It means that you grew in harmony with the physics of the universe. Isn't that cool? And how does it mean that? Well, it has to do with the Fibonacci sequence and this constant of the universe called phi, spelled P-H-I, that helps growth occur in a way that enables, maybe you probably understand this better than I do, because it helps like people create fractals and stuff. It's recursive growth, and it's essential to normal growth, because we don't think about this as being so like complicated, but your hand has to be the same proportion at every size, right? So when you're a baby, you have to be able to create a fist like this, so that your fingers are all just about equal, so you don't have one that's 10 times, super much longer, and you create an inefficient fist, right? You won't have any strength. So just the growth of a hand is kind of a miracle, and it's not entirely directed by your DNA. In fact, very little of it is directed by your DNA. Most of it is the physics of the universe, the fabric of space-time, and all that cool stuff. That creates ripples in the water and sand dunes and all these patterns that we see in nature over and over again, spirals and stuff like this. When Price was looking at these folks who had straight teeth, he also, and he made note of this, was looking at people with beautiful faces that had high cheekbones and broad foreheads, and oh, by the way, they also had perfect vision, and oh, by the way, they didn't get sinus infections or ear infections, because there are passages and these little things that drain your sinuses and drain your ears, grew properly, and they drained properly, so they weren't prone to infections, and they were physically strong and physically attractive. And this is one of the most controversial things I talk about in Deep Nutrition, about beauty. It isn't just in the eye of the beholder. Sure, we have tastes. Gentlemen apparently prefer blondes, but actual real beauty is all the same in every culture, because every whether you're African American or Native American or Caucasian American or Eskimo or wherever, your face has this same geometry. When you are healthy, when you have straight teeth, you didn't need any teeth pulled to be straight, and you don't need glasses, and your ear canals are straight and everything, you have the same facial geometry. Your skin color might be different, there might be like slight different size of your nose, but you're just tweaking the formula. You're tweaking the same formula. And this formula was discovered by, the formula for a perfect face is what I'm talking about, was discovered by another maxillofacial surgeon, dentist, just like Price, who created a formula for the perfect face based on Fibonacci. And you can look him up. His name is Stefan Marquardt. And his work is fascinating. But I mean, to me, that's where like a healthy diet borders on the miraculous, like, so sure, we're just talking about like butter is good for you and you should save the bones, scraps, and make soup. But that's where like we're creating the building blocks for life. And, I think it's really an amazing thing. So just beyond that it's good for you and makes you live longer, it's somehow more important. It seems more important than all that to me.
I agree. I just want to add a couple of interesting notes about Weston Price, which is, I think it was what he did is probably a unique and unrepeatable experiment that's never going to be done again, because he did this at the time when the airplane was first invented, and at a time where there were still places in the world that were still isolated, where the airplane had not invaded significantly. And so people in those parts of the world were extremely isolated from the rest of the world. But the amazing thing about it, and this is why it's really proper science, not like the current number molesters that call themselves scientists. He would go to, say, Eskimo populations or Inuit populations in the north of Canada, and he would visit an Inuit population that is completely isolated or almost entirely isolated, that they would, they'd be very genetically similar to a population that lives a few hundred kilometers away from them. But the other population is integrated into modern trade. And so you have two very genetically similar populations. One of them is isolated and still eating the things that they've been eating for thousands of years. And the other one is trading with Europeans. And therefore, for the last 20 or 30 or 50 years, they'd been eating flour, sugar, and grains that are prepared in the modern industrial way. And he would show you pictures of the two, and he took a camera with him, and he took samples of their food, and he sent it to his lab back in, I think it was in Ohio, and he analyzed the content of the food, the nutrients content in the food, and he would analyze the differences in the picture. He'd count, he'd go to the population, he'd count how many rotten teeth are there in the entire population. And it's just astounding. Like, you look at the pictures in the book, and the book is amazing, and you can find the whole book online for free. If you Google it, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, it's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. And you can see the pictures, and they're just mind-blowing. Immediately, you tell the difference. Inuit populations, you'd think, you wouldn't be able to see much of a difference between two similar tribes that are living in the north of Canada. And yet, you look at the pictures, and one of them is just, they look like they're from magazine photo shoot. They look glamorous almost. Their face is shiny, their teeth are nice, their smiles are big, their jaws are wide. And the other population, they've been invaded with all of this food, and so they have all these health problems. Their teeth are bad, and labor is bad for their women, and all kinds of things that you think of as just a normal part of life only appear in the population that was eating all of this bad food.
Well, we've lowered the bar on health, right? It's now we've normalized like wearing glasses and kids needing braces and teeth pulled. I needed teeth pulled. And we've normalized cesarean sections, which, somewhere around 25% to 30% of all births now are by, unnatural births are by cesarean section because the woman's body does not properly respond to hormones, or her pelvis isn't wide enough. I mean, that would have killed, a species, right? I mean, that's how species go extinct. So we're kind of in that phase right now where we're watching ourselves go extinct. I mean, this is what happens. That's what these chronic diseases are, and these fundamental changes to our physiology that interfere with basic functions like vision, right? Like I need glasses. Without glasses, I wouldn't be able to, function. So, like, just because we have created a accommodation for a health problem doesn't mean we should be accepting that health problem as unpreventable. And what I'm saying, and I say this in Deep Nutrition, is we should think of a healthy baby as a lot more than just 10 fingers and 10 toes. We want that child to be able to excel in life and at sports, and you need good connective tissue. You need to have everything built right. And we don't even know what built right means anymore, because just the very idea of suggesting that it's going to change the way you look is controversial and politically incorrect.
Yeah, and this is a fascinating part of your book, which I had not even considered before reading your book, Deep Nutrition. You look at essentially nutrition as a multi-generational thing, and you see that when people eat well, their kids look attractive. It's an extremely controversial thing to say in this world where everybody is beautiful and gets a participation trophy, but the reality is, no, we're not all equally beautiful. Some people are more beautiful than others. And it does seem like food plays a big part in it.